Hello and welcome to Decoding the New Economy. Today I'm joined by Robert Scoble. I'm kind of intimidated by this one because this is the guy that invented this medium. Robert, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, first of all, to kick off, why are you down under?
Why am I down under? For a couple reasons. One, Telstra had me speak to a bunch of different events today, but I'm here to see startups. I'm here to see what's happening in the ecosystem, and I judged a startup contest the other day, and I get to run and visit a bunch of geeks and see what's happening in each ecosystem. And that helps me keep up to date so people trust what I have to say.
Yeah, now you've been doing this for a long time, and how did this start with Microsoft?
Oh, Microsoft. Well, I was working at NEC back then and selling tablet PCs, and an executive from Microsoft, Vic Condotra, who then went to Google, saw me helping people in the news groups, not even blogs. And then he started reading my blog, and then he called me up. He goes, "I want to buy some of your tablets for Bill Gates' CEO summit." And after a while, he said, "You know, you're doing something very different than I've ever seen an OEM person do. And I want you to come to Microsoft and teach my team what it is, what it means to do a blog." And that led to going to Microsoft and then joining a team called Channel 9. And where I got a little $200 Sony camera and started filming people in their offices just like this. And it got really popular. Who knew? Who knew people wanted to see inside Microsoft?
I can understand it. So now you've mentioned news groups there. So you've been across the whole gamut there, and a while back you moved from blogging over to social media. How are you finding all of that evolution?
Well, blogging is social media. It's just a different form. Social media with Facebook, with blogs, it's you put up a post, it has a title, it has a thing, a thing like this, and then it has comments. Facebook, you put your friends in there, and if I post something and you're a friend of mine, then you see it, right? And if you click like, then some of your friends see it. So the distribution of media is different than a blog where you have to have somebody reading it on an RSS reader or visiting the webpage and seeing it, right? And I just find I get a lot more engagement and a lot more distribution on Facebook because of the engagement model. So I said, heck with the blog, I'll just do it all here because I'm getting a lot more traffic and a lot more engagement. And I don't, unlike a lot of other journalists, I don't have to make money off of advertising. So I don't care about taking your eyeballs out of Facebook and onto a blog where there's a bunch of ads around the content, and that's how I don't monetize that way. So I just gave up and joined in. It's pretty good. It does limit my storytelling ability because you can only use one video. Where on a blog I could put like 5 videos into a blog post, and I can't do a lot of typographic stuff. So sometimes I think about maybe going out and starting a blog, but so far I like it a lot, and people are seeing it on a mobile phone anyway, so they don't want multiple videos and they don't want to see a lot of typographic stuff anyways. It's too small to do a lot of that stuff, so just write a little bit like that and put a video up and everybody's happy.
You like it? Yeah. So in all your travels and you're visiting these startups and so on, what are the big trends that you're seeing in the startup world at the moment?
Well, I start splitting it up into home and car, and mobile, and wearables. Let's take just a home, right? You walk in, I have a drop cam. Now Google just bought them, and it watches anybody moving by my front door. And it puts a picture and a video onto my phone with a notification so I can click on it and see who's at my front door. There's the Nest right inside my front door that runs my thermostat. And I have a smoke detector from Nest. Then I have Sonos players for my audio gear. I have Philips Hue lights. Philips not quite a startup, it's a big lighting company, but these new lights are internet controlled so I can change the color from my iPhone or the brightness. Let's see, what else do I have in there? I'm getting Lockatron locks, so I can unlock my locks just by walking up to my front door because it will see my phone and soon see my watch combined there. What else is going on in the home? That's enough. I mean, there's I have a Revolve unit that grabs all of those and puts it into a single app. But there's a lot happening in the house. Every day I see a new startup that's coming out with, like Vessel has a cup that has some sensors in it.
Right.
I mean, it sounds sort of dorky, but that's an example of startups are like, what would we do if we put a sensor in the cup? What would we be able to study about you or warn you about or anything like that? Onto the car, the car is turning into an API. We're seeing companies like Automatic that plug into the dashboard underneath where the mechanics plug in, and it starts telling you all sorts of stuff about your car. So if you see a check engine light, it tells you what it means. It's watching your driving behaviors and telling you, oh, if you drove a little bit slower, you would save a lot of gas, stuff like that. And then you look at the mobile world and how many apps there are. There's like 1.3 million apps, but my most used ones are, let's see, things like Tempo, which is a new calendar, better than the Google Calendar. It's a contextual calendar. It looks into your email and out on the internet to look for things that would help you with your next meeting. So if I'm meeting Monty here at Telstra, it'll tell me all the emails that we have back and forth. It'll tell me the address, the most accurate address that the internet has for him, and it'll bring in all sorts of other stuff. Another startup like Refresh tells me all sorts of stuff about Monty. So it'll tell me his latest tweets and his latest Facebooks and LinkedIn's and stuff like that, and bring in other data.
So, Robert, we've spoken about Nest, we've spoken about Apple, all of these different companies. Does it worry you that companies like Google and Apple and Amazon are creating their own silos within the internet and empires, if you like?
It does. I mean, I'd rather that all my content wasn't inside Facebook, that I had some control of it. Yeah. But those days are over.
All right. Well, I was going to ask you that about the social media too.
They are over, but we're seeing new startups like IFTTT, I-F-T-T-T, which will grab data from Facebook or from Instagram or from Twitter or from Google Plus and put it somewhere else. So, but the problem is when I post something on Facebook, the value of it isn't just the picture I posted or the video and the content I posted, but it's all the comments.
Sure.
And those comments can't move because those belong to Facebook.
Yeah.
And even if they didn't belong to Facebook, they belong to somebody else. So how do you move them around? You know, it's very difficult. So I think we're in the siloed world for a while, with some exceptions. But every app on my phone is its own silo, right? And now we're really buying into ecosystems. I mean, we just bought a new iPhone in the middle of this interview. You didn't realize that, did you? We stopped the camera and bought an iPhone because it was 12:01 a.m. Pacific time when we were doing this interview. And everything is going to spring off of either the iOS or Android. And if you want the Apple Watch, you got to buy the iPhone, right? Because it's paired. It won't work with an Android. And if you want the Motorola 360 watch, you got to buy an Android. So they really are trying to own you as the customer, and that's unavoidable at some level. I wish it wasn't so, but companies tend to do that, right? And for lots of reasons, not just trying to own your customer. The Bluetooth stack here is matched up with the watch, so and the capabilities are matched up. The software on the phone is going to talk to software on the watch, so you have to have a pairing. And then at home, you're going to buy, if you buy an iPhone, then you're going to have an iWatch and an Apple TV. If you buy an Android phone, you're going to have a Motorola 360 watch and a Chromecast on the TV, right? You're going to have to decide which ecosystem you're going to be part of.
Sure, and that's going to tie into your car and your smoke detector.
The Mercedes car comes with the Apple front end. Now they say they're going to offer the Google one as well, but you got to take what they give you.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that's yeah. So just to finish up, and this is a really big question: where do you see everything being in 5 years' time?
That's such a hard question because none of the people, even the investors, are trying to see 2-3 years ahead.
Sure.
5 years, you can draw some conclusions. We're going to have things on our body. Our phone is going to be, let's see, that 5 years, that's 5 revolutions in phone. So that, the battery life might last a day. But you start looking at what's inside the R&D labs.
Yeah.
The sensors that are being developed. The 3D sensor right now is a stick of chewing gum. In 5 years, I would assume that's going to be a piece of the iPhone, right? A little corner. So we're probably going to see phones that you can use your fingers with to gesture onto the phone, and or do all sorts of funny stuff. So I don't know. I don't try to get into that level of futurism. Beyond just the big, some general trends, I can see the size of things shrinking. I can see some, like when I went to SRI, they showed me a sensor that was this big that could see that you have pancreatic cancer.
Right.
Now I remember when Wi-Fi radios were this big, and now they're a little tiny piece of your fingernail, right? It shrunk down to that, right? And so the same thing is going to happen to the sensor. It's going to start out this big and it's going to shrink down to something that small that's going to be underneath the watch and going to be watching you for cancer and heart attacks and all sorts of fun stuff. But yeah, it's hard to predict 5 years because you just don't you don't know what the breakthrough is going to be. And here's an example. At Microsoft, they had a home of the future when I worked there 8 years ago, and everything was as expensive as they could make it. In other words, they had a pocket PC on the doorbell, right? That would have a video and a camera. Well, that's sort of stupid. Now I have a drop cam, know. But they couldn't foresee the screen technologies that are coming out. Even this watch, the screen technology just came out in the last 2 years to do this. The e-ink kind of reflective screen technology. So they couldn't really show you what the future would look like. They might be able to guess. Oh yeah, someday we'll have a flexible screen. Well, what does that mean? At Xerox PARC, for instance, or PARC, which is a subsidiary of Xerox, their PR people always bitter about the wording of that. But that's where the Macintosh was developed. That's the place that Steve Jobs got access to and saw the future of desktop computers, and then took some of that, what he saw, and made the Macintosh. And they showed me a machine that can inkjet print circuitry on anything for pennies. 50 transistors, a little radio on a milk carton. So you could put a little sensor on a milk carton and spray it on for a couple cents. And now you have a sensor that will tell you, oh, this milk has always been underneath 40 degrees, right? Something like that. And it could even maybe have another sensor that'll tell you the milk is third of the, is 2/3 empty. So why don't you order another one, right? So I could, because I've seen inside the research labs, I could sort of dream about a world where there's going to be circuitry printed on clothes or on the surfaces of things, or on milk cartons or candy bars or something like that. But that thing right now costs a few $1 million. It's not to the place where it's commercially available, and it's not perfected yet. So 5 years, maybe, probably. So maybe you'll have a 3D printer. It'll print something, and it'll put some circuitry into it, and now all of a sudden you have a smart object, right? But I don't know. For sure. I know that's the general direction. I don't know what year it's going to show up. I don't know how it's going to show up. I don't know how it's going to be commercialized. A lot of ifs, a lot of questions. Right? But there's people who are better futurists who start thinking about that stuff. It's funny, the best way to look at the future is go back and read people's thesis papers. Thad Starner, who designed the Google Glass, he wrote about it in his thesis paper in 1991, 20-something years ago. and it was word for word what the Google Glass looks like today.
But, Robert, I really appreciate your time, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining Decoding the New Economy.